Sci-Fi Overdrive is back on Business Talk Radio. How are you all doing? I'm Dave Durica, your chief engineer. With me is Lauren Urban, OboeCrazy.
What an interesting choice of music you've picked.
And
I knew having Vic Mizzy on the show was going to lead to no good in the end.
We shouldn't have given him
It
that
will be a
CD.
legacy that will stay with us always.
For months.
Or years. And that deep voice you just heard was Erich Landstrom, the ScienceGiant.
Good evening, and thank you for tuning us in.
And Eric, who do we have on this week?
Jaffa! Kree! We have the Jaffa, one's first Prime of Apophis. We have Christopher Judge, who plays Teal'c on STARGATE SG-1, joining us for this hour. Welcome to this broadcast of Sci-Fi Overdrive, Mr. Judge.
Hey, great to be here. Hey, Eric, don't ever get into TV or I might be out of a job.
I always feel like a munchkin whenever he speaks and then I have to speak. Although you yourself have quite the voice, the few times that you actually do get to speak on STARGATE SG-1, which is wonderful to listen to, although you've been writing some episodes and giving yourself more lines, which is great.
Well, thank you. You know, it's over the first couple of seasons, I think it really served the character well to be a little less verbal than the other characters. But, season 4 and 5 was kind of getting tired of it, so I said, let me write myself a couple lines.
Not a bad idea. I especially liked in Birthright, where you actually explicitly say, I may have talked more than you than I've talked in the last year.
Yeah, that was a little bit of an inside deal there. I'm glad you caught it.
I always thought it was a real shame, too, in Wormhole Extreme, when they introduced the character who's supposed to be you as the robot, and everyone in the terms of Lucy.
That was actually my stand-in on the show. So it's the whole eyebrow gag with him was they actually had were trying to do takes where it said, Herb, raise your eyebrow. And he couldn't do it, so Peter Deluise came up with a little gimmick there of hooking the thing to his eyebrow. So that was actually functional.
That whole episode felt like everybody in the production just kind of got into a big room and said, okay, what have we done for the past couple of years that we can just make fun of? That's
right. You know, and that's one of the great things about our set from top to bottom, from producers to grips to everybody. We love to laugh at ourselves and laugh at each other. So it makes it a very good work environment, to say the least.
Yeah, when you first signed up, did you ever think that you would get to 100 episodes? And now, I mean, obviously you're going into the 8th season, but what's the longevity? When you signed up, did you really think this thing had legs?
Well, you know, we knew that we had a great premise going in, and Richard Dean Anderson above the title, so, you know, we were guaranteed 44 going in. Then very, very quickly after the pilot aired, we got another 2 years. So we knew we had 88 to start. So we figured if we just didn't get in the way of this and we didn't mess it up, that we had a chance at a pretty decent run.
Yes, and it certainly has been that. What are your feelings about Stargate Atlantis? Can we expect to see the character of Teal'c appearing on a Stargate Atlantis?
Well, as we speak, the only real crossover to start with, Michael and Rick are, I think, in the first 2 acts of the pilot. And I really think they want to see if it can fly on its own. And I really applaud that because I've read the pilot, and it's fantastic. It really is fantastic.
I have heard some rumors, however, that you may be interested in writing for the show. Is this true?
You know, if I leave any more messages for Brad Wright, he might fire me for something. You know, that's something I'd be very much interested in because I would really like for my career to kind of go more in that direction. People ask me if I could have a career like anyone's, who would it be? And I always say Danny DeVito. It's kind of like he acts when he wants to, but he has more of a hand in the producing side of it now. And when he wants to work, he does.
So what is the appeal behind the camera that you perhaps are not getting in front of the camera?
Well, it's, you know, truly, I'm a fat man inside of a somewhat in shape man's body, and just the thought of you know, another 10, 15 years of dieting constantly and you know, working out, getting up at 4 a.m. to work out.
Welcome back to Sci-Fi Overdrive, where we're continuing our conversation with Christopher Judge, who plays Teal'c on STARGATE SG-1, which can be found on the Sci-Fi Channel on Fridays at sometime that you have to check your local listings.
And on Mondays for
And
about a
on-
5-hour block, and
and
every day
Tuesday
at about
and
6 p.m.
Wednesday
Eastern
and-
Time, and it should be in syndication on your local WB or UPN affiliate.
Turn around and you can find it. And just before the break, we were, talking spoilers, and so I'll go ahead and just ask it blunt.
No. Let me
not?
ease into this
Oh, come on.
because as the fanboys amongst us know, in the episode of 2010, which projected what was going to happen in the future, Teal'c had his gold tattoo, for lack of a better word. Do you guys actually have a name for that?
It's just the tattoo. That's basically what we call it.
Slit your
squiggly
forehead
on the
open
head.
and pour molten gold inside,
That's
gold
right.
tattoo, had been removed. And
Yes.
so we realized that we could expect some changes to happen to Teal'c's head in the future.
Is Teal'c getting hair? Why can't we just ask?
Eric, you tried to ease into it.
It makes no sense to, tiptoe around the issue. Is Teal'c getting hair?
I
You blew it. You
since
scared him
I did
off.
someone let the cat out of the bag in Europe. Yes, Teal'c will finally have hair after 7 seasons of me lobbying for it. Yes,
Well,
it finally will come to pass. The funny thing is, originally when I originally read for Teal'c, I had very long hair, like extremely long, and I hadn't heard from the producers or anything for like 2 or 3 weeks, and pilot season was getting ready to start up. So I figured that I would be, reading for doctors and lawyers and things of that nature. So I cut my hair off, but not bald, just short.
Right.
And the very next day, I was called for the screen test. So I had to, my agents informed them, well, he doesn't have long hair anymore. And they said, no, that's fine. So I ended up getting the part. And then when we were up here, we're doing the camera test. And the hair I had didn't fit with the tattoo and the mascara and the eyeliner and everything else. So Jonathan Glasner actually came to me and said, well, how do you feel about being bald? And I said, well, I'm open to it for, some sort of fiduciary compensation. And I was guaranteed that it would only be for the first couple of years, and third season, I would then be able to grow my hair back.
Uh-huh.
So season 8, I will have
They're
hair.
finally making good. Because
What?
Go ahead.
So what kind of, are you going to go back to long hair? Not that I expect that you can regrow it over the break, but how long can it be?
It's going to be kind of an adaptation to like all the cornrowing you see now. Mm-hmm. It's going to be kind of a take on that.
So I have to ask, now that Teal'c is going to have hair, have there been meetings about what Teal'c's hair should look like?
Oh, honey, if you only knew.
I can imagine that's got to be both fascinating and uncomfortable all at the same time.
Well, I went into the office in January and kind of modeled what my idea for the hair was, and it went over very well. But then there was the ensuing phone calls to MGM and to Sci-Fi, and Sci-Fi to MGM to the producers.
Jaffa, Kree, we resume our conversation on this broadcast of Sci-Fi Overdrive with Mr. Christopher Judge. Chris, we were talking a couple of segments ago about how casting got done for a Stargate SG-1, and it's very interesting to take a look at how people are played against type. You are an extroverted person, but you were called upon to be very introverted. Gary Jones is a comedian, but he plays it straight as the gate technician.
Right.
Richard Dean Anderson played the brilliant MacGyver who could save the world using nothing more than, duct tape,
And anything
Exactly.
else.
canister of
around.
aspirin, and an old
Yes.
radio.
Screws and a piece of gum. Yes.
Right. So my curiosity is, as a actor and as a writer, if you could answer this, because having done The Warrior and The Changeling and Birthright, how is it possible to script dialogue for people who off camera are very different from what they're portraying than on camera?
Well, what I try to do is I try to work in as much of their personalities and as much as like when we have like our little joke and laugh sessions off camera. I try to work as much of that into the script as possible. A lot of getting through every day is just our ability as a whole to laugh with each other. So you put stuff in that they will relate to, but still be able to play as a character. And that's kind of what my whole thing is as a writer. And sometimes it really does give me a leg up because I hang out with these people away from set. So it really does give me a different insight into the characters. And I was reading something by Dustin Hoffman, actually, that said an actor becomes the character. And Hoffman said, no, that's not true. The character becomes the actor. Right. And so you put more and more of yourself into what you see in a character breakdown, because that's not something that is tangible for us. So it does become part of us, whether we like it or not.
So then what happens when you're writing, Changeling, and suddenly now you're talking about characters we're familiar with and actors we're familiar with, and now putting them in a completely different situation, tweaking their characters, what kind of is the process behind that?
Well, that was just trying to give everyone else, including myself, just a chance to do something different. Just for the chance for Tony to, play a normal guy and not have to speak with, the very staccato rhythms and it was a chance to bring Michael back and work with him because he was gone that season. It was a chance just to do something different. And also, every guy has always wanted to play in a firehouse, ride on a fire engine. So I killed a lot of birds with that stone.
This is my chance to get all those adolescent fantasies
That's
out.
right.
Speaking of adolescent fantasies, this is... No.
Is this going to be a Jolene Blaylock question?
No, but now that you bring it up... No, actually, what I wanted to know, you've got two kids.
Three, actually.
I'm sorry, three. Two daughters and one...
No, 2 sons and a daughter.
2 sons and a daughter, okay. Well, Teal'c is estranged from his son. I guess sort of Braid Tack is on this broadcast of Sci-Fi Overdrive. We resume our conversation with Christopher Judge. I'm the ScienceGiant, Erich Landstrom, joined by...
I'm Lauren Urban. Always nice to be here.
So those of you who are writing transcripts of this, get that right. That's Erich, E-R-I-C-H, and it's Christopher Judge, J-U-D-G-E, who plays Teal'c, T-E-A.
L''C.
L''C. What's the deal with the apostrophe in there? Anyway, because the last transcript that I saw, when I pronounced it Goa'uld instead of Goa'uld, people wanted to write me up on that. They had a little sick. And I remember we did this interview with Don Davis, and we did an interview with Tony Amendola, and that's the question. Why are some people pronouncing it Goa'uld and some people Goa'uld? How much free reign do you have when you sort of create the whole Jaffa and the whole Serpent Guard and the whole 9 yards of a total alien culture?
Well, when we first started, I mean, the pronunciations that Brad and Jonathan had in their minds were different than what I came into the audition with. So we kind of sat down and basically said, we like how you say it. So when we first started, a lot of people were having problems with the pronunciations of everything. So basically what they said was, look, the humans can pronounce it any way they want, but let's try to have some continuity between like how all the Jaffa say Jaffa and not Jaffa and Goa'uld and all that. So we do try to have some continuity among all the people that are of that world. But pretty much we give free rein to the guests who come in and struggle through all the alien terminologies.
Which does bring up kind of one of the problems of being on a sci-fi show is you have legions of fans who are all dedicated to your show who also tend to nitpick quite a bit. Do you find it daunting? You've now been to a whole bunch of conventions. You've met many of these fans. Does the Trekkies myth hold through? What do you think about being at some of these conventions?
Well, we definitely have some very loyal, rabid fans. And, their ability to recall lines from episodes that happened 7 years ago is just uncanny. And as my powers of recall are slowly diminishing with age, sometimes I have to be reminded of this, that, and the other. And it is, but it's a lot of fun. How often does someone have a job, do their job, and you get to travel around and hear people tell you that you doing your job is great. Not very often. So it's a very lovely position to be in, actually.
So other than buying you drinks at a convention, do you ever find that you are approached because somehow the dynamics on the show is, Samantha Carter is going to hook up with Jack O'Neill and Daniel's with, I don't know, Osiris or
right.
No one's won the heart of the Jaffa, Teal'c, so I will approach him at this con and I will buy him drinks and that sort of thing?
Well, pretty much that's a good way to approach me anywhere. Yeah.
Note to self.
No, this, it's all, one of the things I like to do on stage is, excuse me, is I have the entire audience stand up and introduce themselves as someone that they don't know, and then I say, "Welcome to the Stargate family," and that's really the atmosphere that we really want to foster. Is that we're kind of all co-conspirators in this great thing that it used to be our little secret. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And now that we've been on Sci-Fi, it's almost like this new show has exploded.
I was about to say, who's watching it on Showtime?
Yeah, it's really strange, and I like to thank because most of the people that go to conventions have been there since the pilot. Mm-hmm. So it's very much a very easygoing and relaxed atmosphere, and it's funny you mentioned drinks because usually when I'm on stage, people just buy drinks and send them up to the stage. So
make you feel
not to
welcome.
say that I have a drinking problem. Any future producers that may be thinking of hiring me.
I was about to say, if you don't drop it, it's not a problem. And I did want to point that out.
I like that one.
When you do films, you get totally away from the science fiction genres, and you do things like Snow Dogs. You do things like Bird on a Wire.
Yeah.
Like House Party 2. Is that a deliberate choice on your part to sort of show that you have a broad range as an actor?
It was something that I was very much concerned with in the beginning. Because, you hear...
Welcome back to Sci-Fi Overdrive, where we're continuing and finishing out this hour with Christopher Judge, who plays Teal'c on the hit show Stargate SG-1, which can be found on the Sci-Fi Channel. And we've talked about, spoilers for the next season or stuff to watch out for.
See, you want to get me in trouble. That's what it is.
I'm being a hard-nosed reporter or something.
Now, has Heroes aired yet?
Heroes Part 1 has aired. Heroes Part 2 has not.
Okay. So, we're still waiting for the end of that cliffhanger.
I wish they could have aired back-to-back, without the week break. I'm sure a lot of the fans know kind of what's going to happen, but the performances in that, especially in the second half, are just really, I'm proud to be associated with this show, but that episode, to hang my hat on one episode.
One send-off to the awards committee?
I'm telling you, really. You watch a lot. I don't see too many finished episodes, but I do see a lot of the assemblies and stuff like that. And it's hard to get emotional about it because you're there during the filming, which is a lot of it is more emotional than what you see on screen. But I actually watched Heroes and I was actually moved, and I was just so devastated at the end of it, and I knew what was going to happen. So really check out Heroes Part 2.
Heroes Part 2 will air on the Sci-Fi Channel on February 20th. The sort of TV guide, one sentence for it, is the SG-1 is called into action while a film crew is documenting the Stargate program, but the SDC comes under investigation after a mission goes horribly wrong, and it is a two-parter. We were talking about the fans, and it would be impossible for us here on Sci-Fi Overdrive to get the show together if it weren't for great websites like GateWorld.net
absolutely.
and Save Daniel Jackson. Do you ever surf by the internet sites? I know you participated in online chats.
Yeah. First of all, I'm not very computer savvy, but I made the decision when we first started to really not, and a lot of it was because I was so unsure of, so I was just ready to get panned. I was ready to be hated. So that I kind of made a promise to myself that I just wasn't going to go to sites, and mainly it was just out of self-preservation. But I know that some of the writers go on, and Michael and Amanda go on. I don't know often, but it's something that I'm now considering. Since I've been writing, I actually know how to start up a computer, how to put in a program. So my 12-year-old's actually helping to navigate the world of the internet. So,
do your kids think it's cool? They having a popular dad, or?
I think at first they thought it was pretty cool. Now it's just that's my dad. So I think the coolest thing for them is that already at this early age they're already interested in the production side of it, and they come to work during the summer. They come to work with me every day, and they just talk our crew to death. They hang out in the special effects trailer all day. They sit with a cameraman and ask them about their lenses and why they're doing this and doing that.
Yep.
So it's really nice to see that they have an interest in what the old man does.
And that's where the real money is to be made, since they never came out with a Teal'c action figure for them to play with when they were growing up.
Not yet. We still got one more season.
No,
so
come
not
on.
yet.
They didn't make the movie. Are they going to make the movie?
after season 5, we were pretty certain that that was going to be the last season, and we're going to go into the feature. Well, then we got another year, and then after season 6, we thought the same thing. We got another year. Now it's we're going into season 8, and now that we've just gotten the ratings back for the 2 or 3 episodes after the mid-season break, and we've actually gotten the best ratings that we've ever had.
Wow.
So now there's
Congratulations.
maybe season 8 won't be the last season.
And I was about to say, due in no small part to the fine acting talents of Mr. Christopher Judge, our guest on this broadcast of Sci-Fi Overdrive. Thanks so much, sir.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'd just like to send a shout-out to all the fans and thank them for their love and support, and hey, we'll keep doing the best we can.
This is Sci-Fi Overdrive. Visit our website, sci-fioverdrive.com.